Oh, can't hear you yet, Carlos.
This is something that I've been doing often, keeping my mic muted. Good afternoon, everyone. I want to thank everyone for joining us for this new episode of the Teaching Tidbits live series. And I also want to thank Ernest Ialongo, who is our guest, and thanking you for the time and thanking you for joining me in this series of conversations to make sure that then we're able to capture all of the different perspectives that are going on in our campus from faculty, staff, and students. So the first question that I have for you is asking you to tell us a little bit about yourself and also to tell us how are you doing today.
I'm doing pretty good. Let me see. So I'm the chair of the Senate as well as the incoming chair of the Behavioral and Social Sciences Department. I also co-direct the honors program. So pretty busy. And let's see. How am I doing? I think I'm doing okay. Everything seems to be pretty well balanced. I went for a run today, so that usually clears my head and I'm able to do everything that I need to do. And, I'm a workaholic, so it's just a matter of keeping my head clear.
Thank you, Ernest. And indeed, you have a lot of roles that you're playing, and we're going to be having conversations about how these roles have been changing in this transition. But also, I want to congratulate you for this new endeavor that you're going to have as a chair of the Department of Behavioral Social Sciences. And talking about the different roles that you have in at work, and being that we are in this continuous transition, we don't know what's going to be happening, and we didn't know then, we don't know now. How have your work and life responsibilities changed due to this transition?
Okay. If I could make a request, Carlos, before we continue, when I'm answering, you disappear from my screen, so I'm talking to myself. Is there any possibility to keep you on the screen? If not, I'll just keep talking. Oh, there we go.
I could stay. Perfect. I usually wanted to make sure that I give the whole floor, but then I understand the the visual connection of having that conversation.
Yeah, thank you so much. Work-life responsibilities change due to these transitions. I've been extraordinarily far more busy. I've spoken to my colleagues and they're saying the exact same thing. I've been very fortunate that this semester I don't happen to be teaching because of all the administrative responsibilities I have. So my primarily responsibility was transitioning my programs, the Senate, CUNY committees that I'm running online. And once you learn how to do that, then it's just a matter of maintenance. But the initial transition to learning how to do that and then working with people to be comfortable communicating on that platform has increased my workload extraordinarily. And my wife's. You would think that removing the time on a subway to go to work and removing the amount of time walking from one meeting to another would maybe free up some time, but it hasn't. My days and her days tend to start looking at the emails by 8:30 in the middle of coffee. 9 o'clock, you jump on a video call, a conference call, or you're preparing for the next meeting that inevitably starts at 9:30, 10 o'clock, 11. And, we've gotten to the point where it's just like, who's walking the dog at noon? Because I've got a conference call with so-and-so, and that's non-negotiable, that kind of thing. So it's been extraordinarily busy. For the first 2 or 3 weeks, the days sort of went longer and longer, 6, 7, 8 p.m., that kind of thing. Everything had to be handled in real time. So, and that's the work responsibilities. The life responsibilities, because I'm an academic and I work so much from home, I already have a home routine. So it was a matter of just trying to maintain my life responsibilities in the midst of this extraordinary increase in work responsibilities. So, you know, making sure that at a certain point you end the workday and someone's got to make dinner, someone has to walk the dog, someone has to wash the dishes. You know, it just, you have to, work cannot bleed into life any more than it absolutely has to. And I wouldn't say that things are under control, but certainly I'm aware of the rise and fall of how committed I have to be. And when there's a deadline, there's a deadline. That's just non-negotiable. And I'm just lucky that I have a partner, my wife, who has an exact same work mentality, and we just try and support each other. So it's just been busy. It's been busy, but you know, I'm also fortunate. I don't have kids. I know raising kids at home while working at home is phenomenally difficult. A lot of my colleagues, committee members, friends are balancing, and you have to be incredibly sensitive to that. I'm healthy. I'm still collecting a paycheck. I'm not looking to see where my next shipment of food is coming from, or am I going to get, like, I don't have the problems of a lot of other people, and I like my job. So I'm busy, but I'm not complaining. I know it could be a lot more challenging.
And you mentioned about the challenges in balancing time, because it's true that we saved a lot of time in commuting and walking from uh, room to room for another meeting. But then what are we doing with that time? Are we conscious on how we are spending and balancing the work and life time? And this follow-up question is, any tips? How are you balancing these two worlds that now, usually you will have a good division when you go to campus, so you're there, and then the moment that you leave from campus, you see that division, and then you get home and you have more concentration on home. But right now you're doing the two things in the same environment. So how would you balance that?
Well, again, I'm in a unique position because as an academic, I've always worked from home. And so I had to learn a certain level of routine. So I work from home, which means I'm preparing my classes, I'm preparing my meetings, I'm researching my material, but I still have to walk my dog. I still have to, help my wife doing all the things in the apartment that we share. That's just part of my life. I like to work out. I either exercise at home every day or I go running 3 times a week. And if the pool was open, I'd go swimming 3 times a week. So I rigorously protect my exercise regimen because it's the only way to maintain my mental balance in the midst of all these challenges. And we are constantly working past our comfort zone in these recent times. And every day is a challenge. Every day is a new problem. And a solution needs to be had immediately, especially if you're in a position of leadership and people look to you to have an answer. And if you don't have an answer, well, you got to try something. Whether you know it's going to work or not, it's better than nothing. And if it works, that's great. If it doesn't, fix it. And that's the next day. But you can't operate at that high level of pressure. You need a break. So my recommendations, my tips would be, you need some established daily routines that are simply unbreakable. When you start work, when you take a lunch break, when you take a walk, and getting outside and taking a walk is critical for fresh air and breaking the domestic cycle of one room to the next. I think if you're someone who likes exercise, keep at it or just go for a walk. And at a certain point of the day, you just got to bring the curtain down and that's it. I'm done. It's 6:30, 7 o'clock. I'm done. I don't care what's on fire. If it can wait, it's going to wait. and then do something for yourself. Listen to meditation music. In my case, when I finally I've done everything else, I tend to stay up late at night just reading stuff for myself. I like historical biographies. That's what I've written. That's what I like. And so I stay up late at night when it's quiet and no one's going to read my emails at work. And I read for myself, big, long biographies that may or may not have anything to do with my research, but it's for myself. And I think the other thing that's critical is, if you are living with someone else, a partner, a spouse, a roommate, I think you need to be honest about how hard it is to be at home like this and the challenges you're under, and understanding that people process this crisis differently. And that's keeping aside, raising kids and all that. Just trying to protect each person's mental health space, safe spaces, quiet spaces. And some of my colleagues, they have a routine. Tonight's my night to get on the phone with my friend. So you put the kids to bed. I'm going to talk to my friend, that kind of thing. And it's got to be rigid. It just can't be one emergency into the next, whether or not you have children at home, because otherwise you will burn out. And I think lastly, you just got to forgive yourself. These are extraordinary times, and everyone is trying to do the best that they can, whether you're running an organization or raising kids or, trying to be there for your parents who are elderly and they can't get out as much. Everyone is trying the best that they can, and you can't add to that burden by beating yourself up and saying you're not doing enough. You just have to keep trying. And that's advice I give to, myself, my friends, and my students, because I do mentor one of the honors students, and I talk to him twice a week on Zoom, just to keep that connection going, offer that support. And if you are, I can't overestimate the value of simply talking your way out of anxiety, nervousness, fear. If you have someone you trust, talk to them, even if it's on a video conference call. If you have a therapist, talk to them. I mean, life is hard enough as it is. If you can do it with the help of somebody else, you should.
Yeah, that's great. And you have answered also, the next question. We were talking about stress, anxiety, and some of the different tips. And it's kind of interesting. The almost every person that I have interviewed in this series have been sharing about running. So
Yeah.
I started to feel guilty in that I have to make sure that I get it at this. So that might be one of the outcomes that I get that additional push. Every conversation that I have running is one of those things. I do some exercises, but it's true. We need to make sure that we identify something that will allow us to go out safely and connect with nature. Any other particular tip that you've used that you want to share about reducing stress and anxiety?
Yeah, I think you really want to be good to yourself in these extraordinary times. And everyone has a different way of doing that, whether it is running or doing a Zoom call with friends and family, Zoom cocktails, which I recommend. But also, like, I know some of my friends, and you can tell on Facebook, they've become aggressive bakers. They love to bake, and they're just trying new things. When we're making dinner here, we try and make time for dinner as an event as opposed to food. What else are we going to do? We're here. So, let's open up the recipe book and find something we haven't made in a while and just take it from there. Variety is, like, while I'm talking about routine is key. Don't let the routine get you down. If you do go for walks, try different routes. Reach out to people that you haven't spoken to in a while, because everyone's at home, and I've reconnected with a number of people all over the world, which is now possible on Zoom. And just be honest with yourself. Everybody has anxiety, everybody has fear. It's perfectly natural, but it can be managed. But just be honest with yourself, forgive yourself, and just keep showing up to whatever it is that you're doing. Don't make your life harder by just putting more pressure on yourself, is what I'm saying. Everyone that we work with are high achieving people. And we're just going through this in our own different ways. But the only way we lose is if we just stop showing up. And overwhelmingly, everybody shows up. And that's been phenomenal.
Great. And I want to share a comment from Junior Ortiz, who's from Puerto Rico, watching this series. And there is one of our students, Carlito Diaz, who has been connecting to many of these live
Nice
episodes of Teaching Tidbit, and he's sharing about having a team and a small group of support works, watching a good movie. Thanks for the feedback and also joining the conversation. I invite everybody that is connected to ask any questions that you may have. You can put in the chat box so that Ernest could also answer. Now,
I have one more thing, Carlos, if you allow me.
Sure.
I have been incredibly fortunate that, and I think this is a tip that goes beyond the pandemic lockdown, at work and in life in general, as much as possible, surround yourself with people that make your life and your work life better as much as possible. So, and I'm sure you have this experience with the committees that you run, and you have the opportunity of appointing people that are both personally and professionally easy to work with. And my executive committee of the Senate have been phenomenal. The amount of work that they have done that doesn't require anything other than me than a request has been amazing. My honors trio that run the program with me have just been incredible. It's the unit that I'm a part of, the social sciences unit, just incredible people. I love my job, and that's because of the people that I've chosen to surround myself with. And so if you want to reduce work anxiety, when you have the choice, build the work and the life community that you want. And those people are really coming through for me, for the committees I lead or I'm a part of, and for the college. They're just fantastic. I cannot tell you how proud I am of the work they've done, and how lucky I feel to have them on my team, or that I'm a part of that team. It's been amazing.
I would say I agree 100% with you on that, because it is very helpful in being able to have productive conversations, have even though you can disagree, but then if you're able to disagree for a reason, and then being able to then productively identifying and finding solutions for those disagreements, gives you more energy, even though it might mean more work, but then that at the end of the day it is going to be more productive. And on that line, because you are the chair of the Senate, so there is a lot of challenges going on. There's many things that are happening, and many questions that have no answers, and yet we have to make sure that we are able to promote governance process in the college. How your experience? What challenges have you experienced in this duty?
I've thought about this a lot. Governance is hard at the best of times. You are representing the college and its many constituencies. And Hostos is a college-wide Senate. It's not a faculty council. We are faculty, students, staff. Which has been wonderful for me, because I've gotten to know so much more about how people engage with the college. than I would have otherwise. And so at the best of times, governance works because the members of the Senate buy into the seriousness and the consequential nature of our role. And you have to show up and you have to do the job because you're elected by your constituents. And I take the role as Senate chair unbelievably seriously because my role is to protect the prerogatives of the students and faculty and staff as represented by their senators. And I'm the chair. The buck stops with me. I'm the one who pushes initiatives. And if anyone has a problem, they refer them to me, because the only way this works is if the people that show up to the Senate trust that they are protected and covered. And that's my primary role in the Senate, and as my incoming position as chair of my department. But in the face of lack of answers, what's our budget going to be? How are we going to do this stuff online? You have to simply take a leap in the dark as a leader, because people want guidance. They want answers. Even if you don't have answers, you have to put yourself in a position to give them something. So I didn't know if the Senate was going to be, if the college was going to be open for the March Senate or not, but people needed to know. I canceled it. I didn't know what platform we were going to use, what's appropriate, what's not. I decided to use Zoom and buy an account. Why? Because people need shared governance to work. You need to give people the means to show up. You have to give them answers. Even if you don't have all the answers, you have to put yourself in a position to get the answers, so they at least can look at one person that has some map in the midst of this chaos. And I don't have any of the answers, but I know it's my responsibility to come up with them, whether it's in the Senate or in the future in my department or in the honors program or for my students. And I don't have the luxury of being paralyzed by minutia and lack of certainty. I don't have that luxury. I have to get it done. And that gives me a lot of confidence that it doesn't matter how I feel. People need, at least the roles that I have, people need the chair of the Senate to know what he's doing. People need the chair of their department, the head of their program, to know what they're doing, to communicate what's going on. And that's because I want that for myself, and I take that role of taking care of people without being condescending about it incredibly seriously. And so the challenge has been to reassure people that in the midst of everything going haywire, there is a path to get through it. A. B, you have to convince them to keep showing up. And you do that by reassuring them that here's the path, here's the plan, here's what we're doing. I'm giving you all the information I have, and I promise you what I don't have, I'll give to you later. And if you have any suggestions, let me know, because I don't really know what I'm doing until I've done it wrong, and then I'll fix it. But I promise you I'll fix it one way or the other. And with governance, it is a challenge in a period of emergency to maintain the role of governance, because we are acting in real time to actual emergencies. And sometimes you don't have time for consultation. Sometimes you just don't. But that kind of shortcutting of consultation is not a long-term process, because the people that are silent, that are not leaders, are slowly going to get upset. And they either going to voice their concern or they're just going to stop showing up. Neither is productive. They need to be part of the process. And so whether it's in the Senate or the department that I'll eventually lead, it really is about guaranteeing that people's voices are heard, and then standing in front of them to make sure that they're defended as they express those voices. And consultation is key. It is absolutely key. And not because of some abstract theory of this is the way shared governance should work. No, it's just, if you make decisions that are not formed by consultation with responsible partners, you may inadvertently, regardless of one's intention, make a decision that causes more problems than they solve. So that's always been the problem with governance, is getting people to believe in the process, both as the members of the governing body, but also the administration that has to interact with the governing body. Everyone's got to take it incredibly seriously and treat each other with respect in their respective parts of the college. I don't have to agree with the president or the provost or the SVP all the time. I don't have to agree with them. They don't have to agree with me. But we have to agree to talk and respect each other's positions and hopefully come to a compromise. And by and large, that has been the case, because that's how I do things. I want to get things done, and I can't get it done by myself. I need the people in the Senate to believe that I have their best interest at heart. And I have the people running the college to believe that my interest is in getting things done in a collaborative and productive and professional fashion. And by and large, it feels like it's been successful. We've gotten a lot done. The town hall held during a special Senate meeting that was a presidential town hall, I think that happened because the president felt that he could come to the Senate and have an orderly discussion with a wide variety of people. And I'm thankful for the people who showed up. I'm thankful for the senators who made the meeting happen. I'm thankful for the president who gave us 2 hours and 15 minutes of unscripted questions. He had an idea of the kinds of questions he would get, but he didn't know who was going to ask them, their follow-ups. He didn't know any of that. He did what he promised to do. He would answer as honestly as possible. And what he didn't know, he doesn't know. And he would, figure it out later. I don't think you can ask much more than that from an executive of a college. And doing all that through distance has been a challenge. But I think you know this, Carlos. The very fact that you're doing this and people want to come on and be interviewed and people are watching, people are hungry for connection. People are hungry for leadership, for direction. People are also hungry for participation in the process. Mm-hmm. And once you recognize that and you engage with that, the technology is just another means of doing it. What you would do on campus is reaching out to people in a collaborative fashion. In fact, this is easier because everybody's at home. You know what I mean? It's how hard was it for you to schedule these interviews? People have the time and they want to participate. So yeah, governance is a challenge, but it's a good challenge. And people want it has to be hard because not everybody agrees. The challenge is disagreeing without being disagreeable, like you said earlier. And I think right now we're in a really good place. I think the dialogue has been productive and we just need more of it, more dialogue, more back and forth, more participation. And I think we're getting there. There's a task force that the executive committee just created, and I sent an email out earlier today. And the whole goal of that is let's talk. Everybody talk. What does EdTech think about this? Think about this. Think about that. That's not even in your division. Everything's connected now. Everything's connected. And we are a college-wide Senate. So we can talk to everybody. And it's been, I got to tell you, it's been incredibly gratifying that people keep showing up and they want to show up and they want to participate. And they trust my judgment. They trust the judgment of the executive committee and the Senate. It's been incredibly gratifying. I'm really proud of the work we've done. I'm proud of the people that keep showing up at the college, at their jobs, in these new teaching modalities and working from home as HEOs and just showing up, And I'm sure you've seen this. How many of your interviewees have had kids sitting on their lap, or the dog walking in the background, or the partner preparing dinner, but they still show up. They don't miss deadlines. And the students in the honors program have been phenomenal. They just keep showing up. They just keep showing up. It's just, I have it easy. I have it easy. I have it easy compared to so many people. But that was a long question to a fairly simple, long answer to a fairly to the point question.
Well, it is a complex question, because it involves many people for this to be able to work, and the fact that there has to be a communication channel that is open with administration. There has to be the trust from the constituents of the Senate, and also identifying that everybody is clear with the path. And I think this has been useful, being that I'm also a senator of the Senate. I've seen so much work that has been done and accomplished, before this and with the transition, and it speaks a lot about keeping the structure. Technology is just another tool, another means to do business, but at the end of the day, the core of business is the same.
Yeah.
And I'm the one that professes the use of technology, but the technology is just helping to get to the
I'm
actual.
going to need your help, Carlos. I'm going to need your help. I don't know how the hell we're going to go to face-to-face meetings and paper ballots after all these Zoom Senate meetings.
We could
we're going to do it.
We could identify. There's a number of good solutions that we could, because people are going to enjoy that. They don't have to be waiting for the results of the voting, because the voting just go right away, and then you get the answers. You get all of
that. Yeah.
So let me add a couple of comments from the student success coaching unit. Who earlier said, good tip, we need to be in good company for our mental well-being.
Yeah.
And I think there is an earlier question about anxiety, dealing with stress and anxiety. Do you have any tips to share with parents how to deal with this?
Well, first of all, I'm not a parent, so I want to be clear about that. But and I'm not equating this. I understand raising a dog is not like raising children. I'm saying that. But my dog, Mina, is the love of my life, and she is my child. My dog, Maggie, who passed 2 years ago, when she passed, it was the worst experience of my life, and I'm never going to forget it. And it still brings tears to my eyes. But I have a lot of close friends and colleagues who are parents, and if you'll forgive me for having opinions when I'm not a parent, and I think, Carlos, you could answer this far better than I could. I know from the people that I've spoken to that are on my committees, parents are having the worst possible time having to work from home, because the division between work and home has been obliterated. In addition to that, they've had to learn to become teachers, and they've had to learn to become online teachers. Additional to that, they've lost whatever personal space and time that they would have, whether it's going out with friends or a gym, etc., that allowed them the mental break to deal with the nonstop pressures of being an employee, a parent, a spouse, etc. And I can only share tips from what my colleagues have shared with me. There is a clear differentiation of roles, parenting roles, that allow the individual to say, I need to work from 2 to 4 or 12 to 4 uninterruptedly. So you need to be in charge of all emergencies and non-emergencies with whatever, the kids, the mom who lives with us, etc. And then I will take over from whatever the case is, 4 through 8. Some of my friends have also said, during the weekdays, I'll take care of all child rearing duties, but on the weekends, I don't want to be disturbed. That's my time for work and personal time. I think it's important, if you can, to have some time with your spouse or partner, if you happen to be living with one, once the kids go to bed, and do something for yourselves. Watch a movie, do a jigsaw puzzle. I don't know. Talk to each other. It's hard to give this advice because I'm not living under this constant pressure of a young person who needs my attention in addition to my help. As much as I love my dog, Mina, she does tend to sleep a lot during the day. When she needs attention, I give it to her, even if I'm in the middle of a call, but it's not the same thing. But when she's sick and I have to drop everything and bring her to the veterinarian while I'm preparing for a Senate meeting, that's life. You gotta forgive yourself. You gotta go easy on yourself. I cannot tell you the amount of parents that I've spoken to, oftentimes moms, who just feel like they're not being a good enough mom, or they're not being a good enough worker. They're not being a good enough father. They're not being a good enough son or daughter. And it's the very fact that you're thinking about this, that you want to be better, is a testament that you're probably doing a good job and you're learning from your experiences. But don't make your life harder by beating yourself up with everything else that you're doing, which is probably really great. I think that would be it. Just find some time for yourself and be kind to yourself. Life is hard enough as it is pre-pandemic. And I guess it would be easier to ask what kind of stress this parent is having. But I think my answer may cover a lot. Again, with all forgiveness for not being a parent, that's the best answer I can give based on my experience with my friends who are parents.
Well, I think you have given great feedback. One thing that I would add is just make sure that you have that conversation with your kids. Have that conversation on that, how this environment has changed, and how the time and the activities that each of the members of the family are doing at home, so that this comes not to a surprise. And I get my son to sometimes disconnect me from being in the computer. It's like, well, what time do you finish working? So I want to play with you. So it's like, okay, is a warning to make sure that I get disconnected and identify the priorities so that I could spend more time with him. So spend that time. That is great advice, to make sure that you spend time with your family members. There's Babette Odan, who is connected. She's sharing that we're definitely split shifting here, and it's okay that you're sharing perspectives from your colleagues. Thank you, Babette, for joining us. And the last question that I have for you: what takeaways has this transition left you with, even though we're not done yet, but so far?
I think, and this is not unique to me, this transition has highlighted an individual and an organization's strengths and weaknesses. And in that process, I have been understanding of those that have been unable to keep up with the pressure, but I have been phenomenally impressed with the people that have just kept showing up and doing things they never thought possible. I am naturally a cynic, and I like to depend on myself and a very small group of people. That's how I'm built. But I have been so incredibly proud of the people I've worked with who have shown up and adapted in ways that was way beyond their basic job description. The adjuncts who have learned how to translate their pedagogical style into the online platform. The I can't imagine what it must be like for the success coaches and ASAP and College Discovery having to do all that advisement on Zoom and phone call and emails, keeping track of thousands. I don't even know what that's like, especially since it's not like we're running, all kinds of money and excess supply. I don't know what that's like, but they show up and they're desperately trying to keep these students enrolled and to come back in the fall and summer to finish this semester. I've been incredibly impressed with those leaders who have taken not only the steps to move administrative and pedagogical work online, but have never forgotten about the mental health consequences of this transition online. And they've been sensitive to that. And I'm so impressed by that, because that is so hard. That I know it's hard to keep up with your deadlines. It's hard to do your job, but so many people have really not only stepped up, but stepped up in a caring and humane fashion, because we recognize that some people can deal with this stuff better than others. I'm an academic. I work by myself most of my life. I did my PhD by myself. I write my stuff by myself. And in my administrative tasks, I do most of the work on my own, because I'm ultimately responsible for the big stuff. And I delegate, to people as I've earned, and I've learned to trust them. And I've been blessed to have that growing number of people that I can delegate to. And I guess, if anything, in the midst of this crisis, I have had more faith in the people that I interact with than I ever thought possible. Because in the midst of this tragedy and crisis, people have just shown up. It is unbelievable. And some of them don't want to talk about how they've shown up every day and just done the work. Whether it's our president, the members of the cabinet who just do the work and they're not looking for a pat on the back. And then others who you see are doing things. And in the midst of all this, we're going to have a commencement. We're going to get our students to the finish line. We're going to respect the prerogatives of shared governance. The people that went up for promotion and tenure, they're getting their vote. The ARC is still working for HEO reclassification. The student government had their election, and they're looking over their budgets for the next year, and they're actively engaged in the transition. Hostos continues. Hostos continues, and the people just keep showing up. And I don't want to say surprised, because I'm just stunned at how many people just decided, to hell with this. I don't want to live like this. I want to keep doing my job. I want to support my students, my colleagues, my friends. I want to be there for everybody. And they are. And so that's been my takeaway. I'm just, every day, I'm just so incredibly proud of the stuff that people do. Every day. I'm impressed. Every day.
Thank you, Ernest. And I, through this exercise of having opportunities to have conversations with different people, the message has been the same. There's so much work that people is doing, and so much love for the work that they're doing, that is translating to, despite all of the challenges that we have, that we continue to care about the reasons why we work at Hostos or we work in higher education, the success of our students. And I think that has been very clear in every conversation that I've had. And we want to assure our students that everybody that works at Hostos is, doing their best to make sure that we continue improving, because this was a learning experience for everybody. And that this challenge could also be seen as an opportunity for continue improving it, and then having a new normal in a better way, whatever that would mean, however that would look like. And it's going to be there soon. and we will see this as a very rich learning experience for everybody. So I want to thank Ernest for joining me to this episode of the Teaching Tidbits. We will have a few more series in this semester, so we invite everybody to join us. And until we see each other, uh, please be safe, and we will be connecting soon. Thank you, Ernest.
Thank you, Carlos. Thank you. Thank you, everyone who's watching.